after the introduction, as the continuation of developing learning resources, we will see utilization of learning resources. So for utilizing learning resources, we have to follow certain criteria. So first of all, we will see those criteria. First of all, clarity. So learning resources should give proper clarity to the students. It should be very clear to the students. Okay, so we should select those learning resources which can give clarity to the students. Then next is attention and interest, and also not only clarity, the learning resources which we are going to use, that learning resources should give more attention, as well as should grasp more attention, as well as should develop interest for the learners. And next one is best motivators. So the learning resources which we are going to use should give best possible motivation to the students or the learners. Next is use of maximum senses. So we should use learning resources which can be seen as well as which can be heard, so that students will use both the senses by seeing as well as by hearing. If they are doing that, then they can learn more effectively. Okay, and then next is based on maxims of teaching. Maxims of teaching is nothing but it is just a general rule for teaching. Okay, for everyone. This is universal general rule of teaching, which includes simple to complex, and known to unknown, seen to unseen, concrete to abstract, particular to general, whole to part, empirical to rational. So those are the rules which we have to follow while teaching. So based on those rules of teaching, we have to make these learning resources. Okay, and next is saving time and effort. So we have to use those learning resources which can save time as well as efforts also. Okay, and then encourages participation, and not only saving time and effort, it should also encourage participation to the learners, and introducing variety. So we should not use only one or two. We should use varieties of learning resources, so that they can learn different things. Okay, and development of scientific approach. So development of scientific approach means by using that particular learning resources, we should develop a scientific approach to the students. That means experimental approach, okay, to the students. And then promotion of international understanding, meeting the individual differences. Principles of learning resources. So under the principles of learning resources, there are principle of selection, principle of utilization. So under principle of selection, we will see what are the points which we have to follow. Appropriate and wise selection of learning resources are required from teachers' side, as these resources are helpful for achieving teaching objectives, which means principle of learner-centeredness. So principle of learner-centeredness, under this we should see learning resources should suit age. So when we select the learning resources, we should see the age of the learner. Okay, so based on the age of the learner, we should select the particular learning resources. We cannot use those learning resources which we are using for postgraduate students to 10th standard student, right? So by seeing that the age of the learner also, we should select. And then maturity. So maturity also, we should check maturity of the learner, we should check. Then intellectual level. Intellectual means the mental power of the learner also we have to check. Okay. And then motives also we have to check, the motives of the learner. Okay, the reason behind the learner's learning. Okay. And then social environment of the learners. So social environment of the learner also we have to see whether it will be suitable for the particular learner or not. So while before using learning resources, we should check the social environment of the learner also. And next is principle of interest and motivation. So principle of interest and motivation, under this, learning resources must be interesting. So it must be interesting. The learning resources which we are going to use should give more interest to the learners. Attention and attention catching. Okay, it should catch attention. Then it should be motivating. Okay. And then next is principle of educational value. Learning resources should create or provide variety in teaching learning situations. So under this principle of educational value, the learning resources which we are going to use should give or should provide varieties in learning situations. So in different kind of learning situation, we can use that type of learning resources we have to give. Okay. And then they should not employ it for the namesake. So we should not use those learning resources for the namesake, just for showing off, not for that. To give them more motivation, to grasp their attention, and also to give more quality educational value. For that we have to use. And next is principle of realization of objectives. So under this, learning resources must be capable and meaningful for proper realization of teaching learning objectives. So learning resources which we are going to use must be capable and it should be meaningful for proper realization of teaching learning objectives. So whatever objectives we have set for teaching as well as learning, it should be meaningful. Okay. And then next is principle of simplicity. Principle of simplicity. Learning resources should be simple enough so that a student can understand it and enhance his learning. So it should not be complex, which means we have to give because of those learning resources, students should get motivation, it should grasp their attention, and then it should create interest, it should improve educational value, but it should not be difficult, it should not be complex one. Okay, so that is. And next is principle of relevancy and suitability. Okay, so relevant, suitable, and appropriate learning resources makes topic easy to understand for the students. So as I already said before, we have to choose the learning resources appropriate one and also a relevant one. Okay, if we want to show a video, then we have to show in projector, right? So like that we have to think and use the relevant one, okay, and suitable one, so that the student can understand easily. Okay. And then principle of accuracy. So principle of accuracy, under this principle states that learning resources should be accurate and properly maintained in order to provide better learning. So this principle states that learning resources should be accurate and properly maintained in order to provide better learning. So it should be very accurate. Okay, it should be properly maintained and properly accurate, so that the student can learn effectively. Okay. And principle of size. Learning resource should be prepared considering size of classes, and we should, before selecting learning resources, while selecting learning resource, we should know the size of the class. Okay, how many students will be there, how many learners will be there. Based on that, we have to use the learning resource. We have to develop the learning resource, right? So it should serve a whole class. The whole class can able to see that particular learning resources. Okay. And then it should not be too small, neither too big. And as I already said, it should, the size, we should see the size of the class, that which means it should, if the class is if the group is very small, then we can use small one. If the group is very large, then we can use big screen or something like that. So based on that, we have to use, it should not be too small for the class, or it should not be too big for the class. Okay. And then principle of availability of resources. So things to be considered while selecting learning resources. So under the availability or principle of availability of resources, we have to consider some things, some points, okay, while selecting learning resources. First one is financial budget. So based on the financial budget also, we have to select. Okay, if it is too costly, then we cannot use, right? So based on that, we have to check and select. Trained teachers. So the teachers should be trained to use those different types of learning resources. Nowadays, many devices came up, right, for teaching and learning. So those devices, the teacher should know how to operate. Okay. And then ability and skills in the teaching to handle aid and material. So as I already said, the teacher should be trained to handle those aids, materials. Okay. So next is principle of utilization. Utility decides the value of a thing possessed by us. A teacher should optimally utilize these resources. So for utilization also, we have to follow certain principles. Okay, teachers should follow certain principles. So let us see those principles. Principle of preparation. So principle of preparation under this we will see things to be kept in mind. Awareness of the nature of the learning resources. So we should know before using it. We should learn. We should train ourselves how to use it, and the nature of the particular resource. Okay, way to use it, and consultation of different resources like information bulletin, instruction book, etc. So we should see the different resources, and we should collect information from different sources so that we can teach the students effectively. Okay. And then check interests and attitudes of the students. They should also check the interest as well as attitude of the students. Okay. And then clear objectives before teaching, and the teacher should set clear objectives of teaching before starting the class or before teaching the students. And principle of physical control. Need of physical control is required in order to safeguard learning resources. So why physical control is necessary? Because to safeguard learning resources and to provide economy of time, labor, and money, and generate cost optimum teaching learning conditions. Okay, so physical control is necessary. We should teacher should control the particular learning resources very safely. Okay. And then principle of proper presentation, things to be kept in mind. So for this principle of proper presentation, what are the things we have to keep in mind, the teacher should keep in mind? Careful plan and visualization of learning resources. So we should plan carefully those contents, those topics carefully, and after that we should show them, means we should show to the learners. Okay. And care of maximum utilization. So maximum whatever we are using, those resources which we are using, we have to use at the maximum level. Okay. Minimization of errors or no errors. So as much as possible we have to try not to make any errors. Okay. And principle of action. So teachers should instruct to remain quiet, alert, and attentive while listening or observing displayed resources. So while displaying or while showing some resources, the teacher should be alert whether any mistake is occurring or not, and the teacher should be attentive while listening as well as observing the displayed resources. Okay. Encouragement to respond actively. So, and also the teacher should encourage the students to respond actively and utilize experience efficiently. Okay. So the teacher has to utilize those experiences efficiently. Then principle of appraisal. So principle of appraisal, evaluation of material aids. So under this, first one is evaluation of material aids. To what extent has it helped the teacher in the teaching task? So to what extent the teacher has helped the teacher in the teaching task. That means by using that particular resources, whether the teacher got any benefit, it is useful or not for teaching, that we have to see. And how much has it contributed to make classroom environment healthy, and also the resources has contributed any means benefit to the to make the classroom environment healthy, and what are the difficulties that were encountered by. So while using or while showing or while utilizing that particular resources, what are the difficulties, what are the problems the teacher or the learners are facing, that also we have to evaluate. Okay. This is about the principles of utilization of learning resources. Okay.